Welcome to the final episode in Season 3 of the Other States of America History podcast. We've had a number of episodes dealing with the history, or perhaps prehistory, of the place that we now call the state of New Jersey. In Season 1, we learned about New Netherland, and then in this season, we had an episode on New Albion, the retaking of New Netherland, and 2 separate episodes on the colonies of East New Jersey and West New Jersey, as well as 2 episodes on the Dominion of New England, which came to occupy the Jerseys. And if the title of this episode didn't give it away already, we are now at the point that the independent colonies of West New Jersey and East New Jersey will reunite, and we get the Jersey you know and love today. So just to recap, after the English took over the New Netherland colony, it was given to the king's brother, the Duke of York, who would be the future King James II. The Duke of York then took the bottom chunk of New Netherland and gave it to 2 supporters of the royal family, especially during their troubles during the English Civil War, the Lords Carteret and Berkeley. And this was the birth of the colony of New Jersey. Carteret sent his cousin Philip Carteret over to be the governor. And if you listen to those episodes, you know he did a terrible job. But he also did a job that maybe no one could have done, as the population generally did not want to be governed, and the New York colony to the north constantly wanted to reabsorb New Jersey. At one point, poor Governor Carteret had to wrestle with an illegal government set up by the Lord Carteret's own illegitimate son. Yes, 2 rival Carteret governors attempting to govern over one colony. Philip Carteret, the legitimate governor, decided to go back to England to clear up the matter by appealing to authority. While he was gone, the Dutch came back, and they took the fort on Manhattan Island, and then much of New York, and pretty much all of New Jersey, willingly surrendered to the Dutch authority, and New Jersey disappears completely. Shortly thereafter, however, in 1674, in the Treaty of Westminster, New York and New Jersey are returned to the English. Only this time, the Lord Carteret's partner, the Lord Berkeley, he doesn't want any part of this anymore. Jersey is not making him any money, and it's proving to be nothing but a headache. And so he offloads his half interest in New Jersey by selling it to a man named John Fenwick, a Quaker. And within the Quaker community, it became evident very quickly that Fenwick did not have the money to purchase half of New Jersey. Who gave him the money? As it turns out, it was likely a man by the last name of Bylinge, a prominent brewer who had many creditors in the Quaker community. Through arbitration, helmed none other than by William Penn, yes, this is his introduction to the New World, Fenwick is found to merely be the purchasing agent of half of New Jersey. 90% of that half would then go into a trust controlled by the creditors of Bylinge, and then that last 10% was given to John Fenwick, who felt himself cheated and often insisted that the money was indeed his. And so Fenwick, before anyone else in the Quaker community could do so, outfitted a ship and began his own colony in West New Jersey, the area around Salem, New Jersey today. This was known as Fenwick's colony, and for a while was completely independent from West New Jersey, which the Quakers would slowly begin to fill in. More so after they received confirmation that indeed they were successful in splitting the New Jersey colony. You see, the Quakers didn't want to deal with the Carteret government. They also had no desire to settle near the inhabited parts of East New Jersey. And so poor Governor Carteret, after having his colony restored, lives through the humiliation of having it split into 2. He is now the governor of East New Jersey. Now during this time, the governors of New York more than ever try to absorb each half of New Jersey. John Fenwick is arrested, Philip Carteret will be arrested, and a governor of New York by the name of Sir Edmund Andros, upon the death of Lord Carteret, will arrest Philip Carteret and then install himself as governor of East New Jersey for a time, until the Duke of York puts him back into his place. With all of this stress, Philip Carteret found himself in an early grave, and East and West New Jersey limped along, always with the threat of New York looming to the north. And just as that threat seemed to dissipate going into the year 1688, New England was engulfed into a super-colonial entity called the Dominion of New England, which was governed by none other than Sir Edmund Andros, who had returned to the New World. The Dominion at first was Massachusetts and Plymouth, New Hampshire, and the area we would now call Maine. And then it absorbed Connecticut, and then Rhode Island. Then Governor Nicholson of New York, because of the French threat to the north, actually asked Edmund Andros to absorb the New York colony. And he did, which brought the Dominion right to the doorstep of East and West New Jersey. Now, the current owners of both of these colonies fearing the confiscation of their rights to the undeveloped lands of the Jersey colonies, submitted to Dominion authority, gave up their right to govern with the provision that Andros wouldn't be able to touch their property rights. They had protected their interests by surrendering their colonies. And again, there was no New Jersey. There was no East New Jersey, West New Jersey. Fenwick's colony, long gone. It was all part of the Dominion. And that's a short review of the last 6 or 7 episodes of this season. Now, where we pick up is when the Dominion falls apart. It all really begins in the former Massachusetts colony, who capture Sir Edmund Andros and then send letters to all the parts of the Dominion advising them to resume their former governments. This was very easy for New Jersey to do because it was the one domain within the Dominion that had no Dominion counselors in it. There was no one to overthrow. There was no one to imprison. And so East and West New Jersey were resurrected without any advisement from England, and like the other English colonies in the north, simply went about their business as if the Dominion never happened. But it did happen, and some time had passed, so it's worth going over who exactly owns the New Jersey colonies now. I credit the historian Maxine Laurie with the observation that the ownership of the Jersey colonies throughout its history became more and more democratized, but at the same time ended up in the hands of men of lesser and lesser means. You start from the takeover of New Netherland. The area seemingly belongs to the king. It's quickly given to his brother, still a powerful person. It's given to 2 very prominent lords. One lord sells off his interests to a group of wealthy Quakers. The other lord dies, and his interest, East New Jersey, is sold off at auction to another group of mostly prominent Quakers. All this happens by 1683, and for the next couple years, a doctor by the name of Daniel Cox, who was not a Quaker, began buying up the proprietary shares of West New Jersey, to the point by February of 1687, he owns enough of the colony to insist that he has the right to appoint himself governor. Of course, before he could do so, the Dominion swallowed up the Jerseys. But now here we are in the aftermath of the Dominion of New England, and Daniel Cox has a change of heart. And like so many owners before, he's looking to offload these shares, or at least sell most of his interest to spread around the burden of running a government. And to maintain the separateness of that government, Cox will have to fight in the King's Council to keep both New Jerseys from being absorbed by New York once again. And so in 1691 through 92, Dr. Daniel Cox gathered a group of investors together and created what he called the West New Jersey Society, and sold much of his interest in West New Jersey, as well as a few shares of East New Jersey's, to the society, for which he would be a member. And perhaps because of his growing interest in East New Jersey, beginning in 1692, both separate colonies agreed to share one governor. This would enable the 2 colonies to cooperate more freely with one another, keep New York at bay, and reduce costs. Their shared governor would be a man by the name of Andrew Hamilton, who was formerly the governor of East New Jersey before the Dominion. He was the colonel during the time of the Dominion who refused to come and rescue Sir Edmund Andros from his prison in Boston. And now the West Jersey Society and the proprietors of East Jersey agreed to share him as governor. And now finally the Jersey colonies can begin to grow a little bit, settle in. The proprietors planned on making money by buying land from the Native Americans. This would be what they considered the undeveloped land, and then selling that land to settlers, while also retaining the right to govern over it, and so perhaps down the road be able to collect quit rents and other taxes. This scheme was especially true of the West Jersey Society. East Jersey, which was already the more settled of the 2 Jerseys, already had counties. Those counties were further divided in 1693 into townships, and the narrative surrounding the Jersey colonies is that they often took a back seat to the New York colony or the newer but bustling Pennsylvania colony. But because those colonies were so large, East New Jersey especially became a place to raise the cattle needed to feed the people in the cities of New York City and Philadelphia. Similarly, a generation before, the Plymouth colony, after the foundation of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, experienced a similar boom. Yes, in some way, neighboring colonies compete with one another, but they can also serve as a market for your goods. The more the merrier. And in 1692 through 94, the New York colony is dealing with the French to the north and their native allies. And the governors there are not so concerned about absorbing the Jerseys anymore. And in fact, Governor Hamilton of the Jerseys will send Jersey militias to to help defend the New York colony, something other neighbors like the New England colonies or Pennsylvania weren't so willing to do. And so, as we'll see, the story of the two Jersey colonies in the 1690s is the culmination of the slow but rough definitive division of New Jersey from New York, and also by sharing a governor and the events to follow, the inevitable reunification of the east and west portions. The one way that the New York colony still asserted some power over at least East New Jersey was its insistence on putting its own custom agents at Jersey ports to collect customs, especially Perth Amboy, the capital of East New Jersey. Governor Hamilton would enlist a powerful ally in William Penn to help him with this issue. Now, William Penn, of course, owner of the Pennsylvania colony, also had interests in both Jerseys. But the Board of Trade in England were not so charmed by Penn like everyone else seems to be, and they concluded that the East New Jersey proprietors, while they had a right to govern, were never specifically given the right to collect customs, whereas New York had. And so if New York wants to collect taxes in the name of the king in a colony that was not enabled to do so themselves, all the better. Furthermore, the Board of Trade questioned whether the two New Jersey colonies were competent enough to maintain a government. It was, after all, a proprietary government, east and west, which after the fall of the Dominion were rapidly disappearing and being replaced by royal colonies with royal governors. The landowners could own land, but they alone would not be able to compose a government. Pennsylvania remained, so did East and West New Jersey, as well as points south, but everything north of Jersey fell into this new imperial mold, and so the Lords of Trade suggested that New York absorb New Jersey. It just keeps coming back. And they further accuse Pennsylvania, West New Jersey, and East New Jersey of smuggling. Soon after this, the residents of Elizabethtown in East New Jersey, the original capital of East New Jersey, whose founders originally had their land grants confirmed by the governor of New York, petitioned the crown to have East New Jersey and its proprietary government abolished as a prelude to being absorbed by New York. And in fact, for the next 2 or 3 years, the entire East New Jersey Assembly will be in conflict with the proprietary owners of East New Jersey, and the governor will be in the middle of this all. And probably to his relief, Governor Hamilton was informed in 1698 that according to the Navigation Act of 1696, he could not be governor of an English colony because he was Scottish. England and Scotland, of course, sharing the monarchy, but not yet united. There is no United Kingdom, but that's soon to come. This was probably a misreading of the Navigation Act, but nonetheless, Andrew Hamilton left for England, and Jersey eats up another governor. The new governor, Governor Bass, came to the New World on the same ship as the new governor of New York, Governor Bellamont. And the two men probably didn't get along on that ride, because when Governor Bass lands, he declares Perth Amboy a privileged port where he could regulate the trade as governor and collect customs as he saw fit outside of the authority of New York. New York custom officials were then jailed in East New Jersey. Bellamont in New York responds by capturing a ship that Governor Bass was part owner of, carrying barrel staves. He takes the ship and imprisons Bass's crew for failing to pay customs at the port of New York City. Governor Bass of the Jerseys then took to his council and asked if the militia should be raised to invade the New York colony. His council unanimously rejects the suggestion. Instead, Governor Bass creates a whole new slate of new taxes to be levied on the people of East and West Jersey in order to raise a defense against New York incursions. In other words, he was socializing the costs of raising a mercenary force to invade the New York colony to retrieve his personal property. East New Jersey specifically breaks out in rebellion. Throughout the year 1698, Bass struggled to hold together any sort of government as a man by the name of Louis Morgan II led a persistent and crushing rebellion. His faction even successfully petitioned the proprietors of East New Jersey in England and had Governor Bass recalled, while also requesting for the reinstatement of Governor Hamilton, who arrives back into the colony in 1699. But this would not placate the rebels, and in that year, Hamilton would see his own militias defeated by rebels, his prisons would be broken into, his captives freed, And it appears that the general population of both East and West Jersey were fully committed now to getting rid of the proprietary government. One economic reason that is blatantly clear is that as a royal colony, they would likely only need to buy land from the natives directly without having to confirm it by buying the land again from a proprietor who owns a governing share. Moving into the year 1700, John Stewart, the sheriff of Middletown, is forced to flee after trying to arrest a group of rebels. These rebels then took a number of hostages. Governor Hamilton himself led a force of men to the town, and in one of the few successes of his governorship, manages to back down the rebels and release the hostages. But this year would be full of plate spinning and putting out fires for Governor Hamilton. In September of 1700, the county justices present in Newark were attacked by a mob and stripped naked, while in Elizabethtown, another mob forced the release of a prisoner from the local jail. Meanwhile, in West New Jersey, the people of Piscataway nail Town Hall shut, and they refuse entry to the 5 justices of Middlesex County. Nevertheless, the justices broke their way into Town Hall, only for the people to remove them, wherein they claimed that Town Hall belonged to the people of this town, refusing to acknowledge the authority of the county. The voice of the people on the ground in the Jersey colonies was clear. They were done with the proprietary government. Similarly, in England, authorities abandoned the idea of New York absorbing the Jerseys, but rather requested that the proprietors hand over the power to govern the Jerseys back to the crown so it could be made a crown colony unified under one governor. And on August 12, 1701, the proprietors of both Jerseys created the terms of their surrender to the government. They asked for confirmation of the lands they owned and the right to collect a quit rent, a property tax of sort, the sole right to purchase new land from the natives, and pretty much everything else that they already had within their powers, at least on paper, other than the right to govern. And perhaps most importantly to this podcast, they requested that the 2 halves of Jersey be united, something everyone seems to agree on in a time when they can't seemingly agree on anything about the New Jersey colonies. And so in 1702, Queen Anne unites the Jerseys into a single royal colony. This will be the New Jersey. That will be one of the so-called 13 original colonies we will see 2 generations from now. The new combined Jersey held its first legislative session November 9th, 1703. And thus we have overrun the subject matter of this podcast, because this is the other states of America. By golly, I've done episodes on the Dominion of New England, on New Albion, on East and West Jersey, on New Netherland, but an episode on New Jersey, I'll save that for someone else. And so we move on to the final legacy portion of the season. In this long story of East and West New Jersey, we've seen that if not for West New Jersey, there might not have been a Pennsylvania. And in the larger story, West New Jersey was the true beginning of the Quaker exodus to the New World. Meanwhile, East New Jersey, in its continuous battle to remain independent from New York, is at least somewhat responsible for the fact that there is a state of New Jersey today. And speaking of today, the one remnant of East and West separate New Jerseys that would persist into my lifetime are the East and West Jersey Societies, 2 separate groups of proprietors who continued to have rights to the undeveloped land in the United New Jersey colony. Again, they surrendered their right to govern, but they were still property owners. The East Jersey Society at most had 96 voting shares, but West New Jersey saw its shares split again and again and again and sold to people of lesser and lesser status, salt of the earth folks, and had perhaps 3,200 voting shares by the end of a separate West New Jersey, which really gets to the heart of the matter on every proprietary colony. Owning a colony as a business very infrequently makes anyone any real money. Really, you need to own a sugar island in the Caribbean, a small plot of land that can crank out cash crops. The proprietors of East and West Jersey throughout its entire history only really made any money by selling their shares or breaking up their shares and selling those fractional shares. Slowly, the owners of the East and West Jersey societies went from prominent individuals in England to settlers in New Jersey. By the 1730s or so, some of these people were actually making some money. And it is worth knowing that their colonies, East and West Jersey, and their legacy East and West Jersey societies, outlived these other colonies that were proprietorships that we often think more highly of, like Plymouth, who never really had the right to govern themselves, but the Massachusetts Bay Colony, New Hampshire as a proprietorship, and Maine. These societies would even outlive the manors of upstate New York, the Rensselaers and the Livingstons. And the East Jersey Society exists until the 1990s, dissolving only in 1998, officially relinquishing their right to any unclaimed land in East New Jersey. They did this because of concerns over liabilities involved in claiming ownership over these undeveloped lands, both environmental and otherwise. At this point, the shares had been passed down in families for generations and existed more or less as an oddity, existing as a company that impressively was around 300 years old at that point. The state of New Jersey paid the East Jersey proprietors $300,000 for their ancient rights, and the society was dissolved. Meanwhile, I believe the West Jersey Society, or the West Jersey Board of Proprietors, still exists. In the very least, it outlived the year 1998. But in the larger scheme, as I've come to know from the comments left on the YouTube page, there is still a cultural division present in the state of New Jersey. Now, if you look at the various divisions of East and West New Jersey, the line always moved. And really, if you live in New Jersey today, you'd probably find it to align more with a North-South division. I, living in upstate New York, definitely recognize a difference between downstate and upstate New York. But there seems to be a difference between North and South Jersey. That difference goes back to being two separate colonies, founded by two different migrations of people. In West New Jersey, you had a small population of Swedes and Finns from the New Sweden colony, with a smattering of Dutch, only then to be inundated by Quakers coming mostly directly from England and specific parts of England. East New Jersey had a small population of Dutch initially, and was then flooded by Englishmen from New England, and later a smattering of Scots. And after the two Jerseys united, they had an alternating capital for a while, lasting until after the Revolution, and even becoming fully unified, there still seems to be a North-South division. I'm no authority on the subject, but please let me know in an email or comment. And so our backstory is complete. Without focusing on the New Jersey colony, all of the colonial entities that existed before it, and in this case in between a unified New Jersey, has been covered. And in this season, we've seen the English population go from a scattering of fishermen and fur traders along the coast far to the northeast, to the filling in of New England, the takeover of New Netherland, and the English arriving on the Delaware River. Please tune in for our last episode, which will be a short and less formal program that serves as the end notes for Season 3. My name is Eric Yanis. This has been the Other States of America History Podcast. Thank you for listening.